Who are you, Jesus?
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 Hi, and welcome to week 2 of the Who Are You Jesus series that we were running. It's great to have you back if you joined us last week. I'm Derek, I'm one of the ministers at St. Columba's, and we're the church that are running this series of videos. If you missed last week, you can catch it back again by looking up St. Columba's Free Church website, or looking at us on our YouTube channel, to which you could also subscribe. That would be great, and that will give you past videos as well of church services if you're interested. So we're looking in this series at some of the claims that Jesus makes about himself, and he did so using different pictures. And last week we looked at his claim to be the bread of life. I am the bread of life. And this week we're looking at his claim to be the light of the world. I am the light of the world. Now, these sayings that we're looking at come from one section of the Bible, one book within the Bible. It's made up of many different books, and that book is called the Gospel of John, and John was one of his disciples, one of his followers, one of the founders of the church. And gospel just means good news. So the message of Jesus is good news. It's like the kind of good news you would get if you went to see your doctor who wanted to tell you that the cancer you'd been diagnosed with had been cured, or going to visit your bank manager to talk about the great debt that you had built up, for him to say it's been paid up by some unforeseen windfall or some generous individual. That would be good news. And that's the kind of good news that Jesus brings to us. We find it in John's Gospel, chapter 8 and verse 12 to 19, and you'll hear that reading shortly. John's Gospel is only part of the Bible that tells Jesus' story, but we are going to be giving out copies of John's Gospel to anyone who signs up for our follow-up course in September. But actually we'd be delighted to send it to you, even if you can't or don't want to take part in that course. We'd encourage you, if you are going to do the course, to read 3 chapters before we meet each time, and there's blank pages on this gospel we send out, and you can write all your questions on it, and then we can discuss them together, and I hope we can do that together. It'd be great to do that over a meal, or at least physically meeting rather than on Zoom, and so we're hoping and praying for restrictions to be lifted. So Jesus says, I'm the light of the world, and that's a big claim, you know. Light, it's got lots of qualities, and there's a couple of things I want to think about before moving on to some of the other videos. You know, can you remember being a parent, or being a child, or now being a parent, when you come into, as a parent, come into the bedroom of your child to wake them up in a winter's morning, and the room is dark, the shutters are closed or the curtains are closed, or it's dark outside, and you put on the light, and your kids immediately recoil, they squint, they stick their heads under the blankets, they hide because it's sore in their eyes. And you know, sometimes Jesus' message, Jesus' purity, his character, God's holiness, kind of makes us recoil a little bit, makes us uncomfortable, and it makes us want to hide, and it takes time for us to adjust to it and get used to it. Or you know that when you've got a cupboard in the house that you throw all your junk into, and you just close it and it's in darkness and you don't see anything, and then when you open the cupboard and the light shines in from the hallway, then you see all the junk that's there, and you know that you've got some tidying up to do. Well, sometimes light acts a bit like that. It exposes, it highlights things that sometimes we'd rather hide. But also, in another way, if you're in a forest and a forest can become very dense and very dark, and you can't find the path, you lose your bearings, and it can be very scary. But then you remember that you have a powerful torch in your bag, and you take it out and it works and it lights up the way. And that's tremendous because it stops you from falling or from missing danger and from tripping up. And it becomes a really important companion and friend, leading you onto the path and staying on it until you get out the other side of the forest. Now, there's all kinds of darkness that we are confronted with in life. Sometimes it's ourselves and the bad things we do or say and think, and the guilt sometimes we have, even the embarrassment we feel about being in the company of others, let alone God's presence, and we don't think He could ever forgive us. Or it might be dark circumstances or experiences, loss, grief, sadness, depression, or not knowing how to live or where to turn, which direction to go to, and where to find meaning and hope. Well, Jesus, He speaks into all of that, especially in this claim that He makes about being light of the world. So we're going to hear some words from the Bible now, and then Estevan will share some thoughts on being done living in the shadows. And then Chris, one of our church family at St. C's, he's going to share about what Jesus means to him, especially in the light of him being light of the world. Enjoy.
I am the light of the world. If you follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness, because you will have the light that leads to life.
You are making those claims about yourself. Such testimony is not valid.
These claims are valid, even though I make them about myself. For I know where I came from and where I am going. But you don't know this about me. You judge me by human standards, but I do not judge anyone. And if I did, my judgment would be correct in every respect, because I am not alone. The Father who sent me is with me. Your own law says that if two people agree about something, their witness is accepted as fact. I am one witness, and my Father who sent me is the other.
Where is your Father?
Since you don't know who I am, you don't know who my Father is. If you knew me, you would also know my Father. I am the light of the world. If you follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness, because you will have the light that leads to life. So check it out. We are talking about Jesus comparing himself to being this iconic, timeless symbol that affects all of our life, like every day. It's light. Jesus is saying he's light. Let's break down, see what he's talking about, what he's claiming, and see what it means for us. So welcome to the lesson, Done Living in the Shadows. In the video we just saw, the light displayed its brilliance, right, in dark and dilapidated places in my city. By its nature, though, light has many powerful functions. It reveals things hidden in darkness. Light leads the way out of dark situations. Light brings knowledge of what is in front of us, right? It's powerful. Light shows you what is truly there, so you're not guessing. Without the sun, a light bulb, or any other source of light, we'd be lost and confused in almost any situation. In a similar way, Jesus knew the spiritual darkness in the world. Think about it. Adultery, deceit, murder, sin, corruption, you name it, it was there. He saw it firsthand. He perceived it. He knew it was there. And now as the Son of God, having come to earth, he was right in the middle of all its ugliness. all the ugliness that still exists today. What was Jesus' response to this darkness? In John 8, Jesus declares himself to be the light of the world that illuminates the way for us as humans to follow, a way out of our darkness and sin. He is the light that shows us how to have a perfect, restored relationship with God, who's also compared to light. And Jesus was God. You get the connection? But hold on one second. I need to expound on this for a second. This has a lot of meaning for me. When I was 15, I knew much about Jesus and the church, but I wanted dark things, selfish desires of all sorts, if I'm honest. Every taste that I took darkened my life and my perspective of living. I was like both the adulterous woman, wanting pleasure, and the self-righteous Pharisee thinking, oh, those people are worse off than me over there. I'm not so evil. Like, I wanted dark things, but I thought I was living in the light. It wasn't until I surrendered to Jesus, believed in him, believed he was the light, and recognized that I needed a light to show me God, that I started following his ways, his word, and living by his spirit. You see, sin's control started having less a grip on me, and I learned to walk with his light in my life, like real time. It exposed the dark things inside of me and helped me to grow in God's truth and not my own dark desires, thoughts, and actions. I still struggle with sin, I still do, but the darkness didn't blind me completely anymore. It was like Jesus said to the adulterous woman, because of him, I could go and sin no more. I saw the picture. Joy and hope filled me. My dark life changed. My dark inside changed. My dark mind and soul changed because the light came in and showed me what the truth was. And that person was Jesus Christ. My dark life changed. And for me, it represented that I was done living in the shadows. One reason, just to note, sometimes we don't like light because it exposes us for who we are, right? As I just mentioned, the darkness in my life was exposed by Jesus's perfection, his light that comes in and exposes it, because light and truth go together, right? It's like turning on a light in the room. You see all the cockroaches and all the nasty things in the room. But what happens? That enables you to start cleaning out the room. And even more so in this spiritual context, when the light of Jesus comes into your life, he has the power to clean out your life, clean you from sin, make you perfect. And why? Because he's the perfect Son of God, the light of the world. Now that's hope for a dark world. I have a question for you. I want to leave you with this. I want you to reflect, and I want to ask you, would you describe your life, maybe on pen or paper, maybe just thinking about it, and ask yourself, is it full of darkness or light? Be honest. Be honest with yourself. Another way to kind of determine this, a part that I haven't mentioned so far, even though we are reading the Word of God and chopping up the Word of God, is that part of me coming to the light of Christ was weighing my life against Jesus's life, weighing my life and comparing it to what the Bible said. That definitely showed me my darkness, but it definitely showed me as well the light that I needed from Jesus. God bless you guys. Walk in the light.
Hi, I'm Chris Stone. I'm 26 and I'm currently a self-employed wellbeing personal trainer who lives and works here in Edinburgh. I've been a part of St Columba's now for about 8 years, having moved down from Caithness in 2012. I studied here at university and then consequently moved on to work here. I'm just going to talk a little bit about my faith in Jesus and specifically thinking about Jesus as the light of the world. If it weren't for my faith in Jesus, I don't think I would be here today. From a young age, I recognised that I was sinful and in need of saving, and I put my trust in Jesus at the age of about 13. However, as I grew up through the teenage years, I experienced a couple of quite challenging events that changed me. And by the age of around 19-20, I began to feel quite different. I didn't really recognise it at that point, but I was struggling with my mental health. On Unfortunately, I kept a lot of these things to myself, as often men do. They tend not to speak about their feelings and emotions, and as a result, things began to decline quite severely for me. There were a number of occasions where I felt that I was in the depths and I couldn't really go any further, but unfortunately, things did begin to, or continue to get worse for me. I struggled specifically with low mood and energy. I also began to self-harm and had quite consistent thoughts of suicide as well, which plagued me for a number of years. Depression makes you feel very isolated and very lonely. It felt just generally you're focusing on the negatives. It's hard to see any positives, and as a result, life often felt very empty and pointless. At this stage, I was really questioning God. I was questioning His goodness. I felt like He had abandoned me through this, as I wasn't really hearing His voice per se, or I felt like I wasn't hearing Him. And I was asking for relief, and I was praying for support and help, but it didn't seem to be coming. I also would question Him and ask why He would allow me to experience something as awful as this. Why me? And I would also compare myself to other people and say it's unfair that it's, this person's living a seemingly great life. They've got a nice job, they've got good health, whereas I'm really struggling. And in light of Jesus' claims to be the light of the world, it was difficult to see that to be true when life was really dark. I couldn't really see where He was in all of this. It was a really dark and confusing time for me, but eventually I did open up, which is often the first step needed to take into recovery. And eventually I did get the help and support that I needed to begin my recovery process. It took a number of years for me to recover, and there were many ups and downs along the way, but gradually the light did overcome the darkness. Only looking back on things now can I really see how Jesus carried me through that entire experience. He protected me from suicide and gave me the strength that I needed each day to get up and to go to work and to interact with others. Things that at that point I couldn't see, but it wasn't in my own strength that I was doing these things. Undoubtedly, it was Jesus that was helping me through this dark period. My faith in Jesus now gives me great hope and confidence for the future. I've seen how dark life can be, but with Jesus being the light of the world, He has overcome it all. He can and will carry you through whatever trial you are facing, whether that be now or in the future. My experience in my faith has also given me a real purpose in life. As I mentioned previously, depression had kind of stolen that from me. I felt like life was quite pointless and not worth living. However, now I am able to relate to those who are going through similar struggles, and the whole experiences inspire me to do the work that I currently do, where I work with those with mental health issues. And I'm just going to finish briefly with a verse from Romans, which I feel really encapsulates my whole experience. And it's from Romans 8:28. It says, "And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose." Although at times we may not feel or see this to be true, it is absolutely true.
Thanks for joining us for today's video, and I hope you've enjoyed what you've heard. Please take time to think about it and consider what we've been sharing with you. Make a date to join with us, same time, 5:30 next Sunday evening on our YouTube channel. And if you do want to speak to someone about what you've heard and contact us, on the email address that's on your screen, myself or one of the ministry team here will get back in touch with you. And do remember the course that I was talking about earlier that we'll be sharing together. I would love you to sign up, send your contact details. We'll send you a Gospel of John, and we really look forward to meeting up with you. So I hope you can join us again next week for week number 3, where Jesus says, "I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved." It's powerful stuff. Thanks for joining.